Hello, and thank you for tuning into this week's Mayor's Update. As always, we have a lot of important information to share with you here this week, so please feel free to share this video with your friends, family, relatives, and anyone else you think might find this information helpful over the course of the coming week. I want to start off by making sure people know that this coming Monday at 6:30 p.m., again that's April 3rd, at 6:30 p.m., the City Council will be holding a series of public hearings on a couple of different zoning proposals that my office has put forward for their consideration. The first of these items is to increase the quota that the city has on marijuana establishments that retail sale in the city of Gardner. Right now we cap those at 2. The proposal is to cap those at 4 instead. Quite frankly, this is just a move that's being done in conjunction with our business community at the recommendation of our local police department, because back in 2019, when our cannabis facilities were first legalized, a lot of cities, including Gardner, took several different precautions to make sure that we kind of protected ourselves from things we just didn't know. So now that we've been able to get a couple years of data to see that we really haven't had any public safety calls to the stores that we have that operate with these types of functions, they really haven't been a detriment to our public services, slowly releasing those reins just a little bit. It's not like we're going to completely open up the cap here. It just releases it to let the market take itself in the direction it does. And because if there's not the demand that's there, the stores simply won't last that's there. It just, again, making it a free enterprise economy rather than being able to, restricting it as stringently as we did. An example of this can be seen back a couple years ago when we had the 5 different smoke shops in the downtown. Those were not businesses that we went out and marketed to come to the city. They just opened up on their own because they weren't regulated with how many that could open. But now if you look, they've all consolidated into one. The market took care of that on its own. And that's something that we're trying to see if we can do with this one, is loosen up the reins a little bit. So again, the economy can be the economy, but still regulate it enough that we're not going to be opening up a floodgate at the same time. So that's really the purpose behind that one there too. There is a strong financial benefit for the city. Since 2019, the city's collected about $1.5 million in fees from these companies. For those of you who may not be familiar, every time a sale is made at one of these companies, there is a 3% sales tax that comes immediately into the city's coffers every time that sale happens. But there's also a percentage fee of annual profits that gets sent to the city on a quarterly basis from these different cannabis retail institutions. So there's an additional financial benefit for the city in that end as well. So again, there's a financial benefit for the city, but also just a loosening up of the economic restraints that are there so that the market can just play itself out. The second one of these proposals is to add the title sports betting into our city's zoning table of uses. Now back in 2022, last August, Governor Baker signed a law that allowed sports betting to take place in Massachusetts. And really what this did is there was a Supreme Court case back in 2017 that overturned a federal law that says only these specific states, and there was 10 of them, were allowed to have sports betting. Now, what this did in the end is set a federal law that singled out certain states, so the Supreme Court threw that out as a violation of the 10th Amendment, which says that anything not specifically listed within the Constitution is reserved to the states for their state authority. As such, the Supreme Court threw out that case and throughout that law in that court case, and thus basically legalized sports betting in every state across Massachusetts. This law that passed basically regulated sports betting as a result of that case. Now, this isn't supposed to be anything that's going to be major for the city. This isn't saying that every restaurant and club and things like that is going to now become their own little mini casino. What it does is it helps us regulate that if one of these facilities does want to come into Gardner, we can make sure it's specifically targeted to the areas that are zoned for commercial business. These are companies that would have to first be licensed by the Commonwealth. So they'd have to go to the state and apply for these licenses, and the fees are exorbitant. So that's how we also know that we won't be opening any type of floodgate with this situation as well, and make sure that we are still protecting the city. The application fee with the state for a license is $200,000, and that's a non-refundable application fee, whether your application is approved or not. And then to actually receive the license on an annual basis is a $5 million license for in-person betting and a $7 million license for online betting. So these companies really do have to be fully established and financially backed and everything like that that's there. And again, they'd have to have special licenses from both the state and the city if they were to come in, and the city council will actually have to vote to allow them to conduct betting if they were to come in here too. All this does is allow us to regulate where they can and can't look at in the city. We want to make sure that if a facility like this comes in, It's not going to go into a residential neighborhood. It's not going to go right next to a school. It's going to go to a place that's meant for commercial businesses like this. So the proposal adds it to the sections of the city's zoning code table of uses, which does break down where different types of businesses can locate within the city under the same sections as outdoor and indoor amusement facilities, and basically regulates them to commercial and industrial properties across the city. So that is what that proposal is about. And the final proposal involves 2 parcels off of Route 140 near the Washington border. What this proposal would do is change the zoning that's there from rural residential 2 to commercial 2. And the reason for this is we're very, what I've been calling land poor as a city. We've got a lot of businesses that are now looking at Gardner, and we've seen that with the 33 businesses that have opened here in the last year, let alone the 47 that have opened in the last 3 years. And the 6 that have opened this year as well. There's a lot more interest in Gardner now than we've seen in decades. So really looking to try to capitalize on that. We've had 12 different businesses reach out to us saying that they'd like to locate here, but they need a minimum 100 acres of land. And we just don't have that here in Gardner. So what this proposal would do is take a portion of this residentially zoned area off of Route 140, which is a very heavily trafficked main thoroughfare, main road, and alleviate the traffic concerns that are already existing there. The fire department and the police department have been trying to get us to do something with this section of Route 140 since I've been in office. In the last 10 years, we've had about 193 accidents on this section of Route 140. 121 of those have had some type of injury associated with those accidents. So again, there's certain things with a commercial location that we can control through the planning board's site plan approval process and order of conditions process that we simply can't do with residential housing, even for a subdivision. So by converting the properties over there to commercial, it adds properties back on the tax rolls to the tune of almost $20,000 a year without even doing anything or any improvements to the site. Alleviates those safety concerns from our public safety departments, and then allows the city to open itself up to more job creation, more economic growth in an area of the city that's really underutilized, but is also a main entrance into the city from the New Hampshire traffic, Winchton, and everyone who's out in that section of the city, but also being so close to Route 2 as well. If this were to happen, we would then put the land up for sale through a competitive RFP process. If you don't know what a request for proposal or an RFP process is, it's how the city has to market it, where just like the several other properties we've sold recently in the city, we'd have to go out and ask people what they'd like to do with the land. And they'd have to tell us what they'd like to do with the land before they tell us how much they'd pay for the land. And we have to evaluate what the highest and best use of that property would be before we even think about what the prices are. So this is all heavily dictated in Massachusetts state law, Chapter 30B, and all other different safeguards are there as well. So again, this public hearing will take place on Monday. That's April 3rd at 6:30 p.m. If you can't make it in person, you can email the city clerk's office your thoughts on the matter. But again, the first one was just to let the market be the market and open things up for, marijuana and cannabis facilities in Gardner. The second one just adds sports betting to the tables of uses. That way, if one does come to Gardner, we can control where they are. And the fourth one is really planning for our future and really helping solidify our economic growth and setting Gardner on a path that really, again, solidifies our job market, solidifies our economic base, and allows us to take some of the burden off of our residential taxpayers and really open up Gardner to a larger economic base that we're here. We just simply cannot compete with a larger business that's looking for someplace like Devon's or someplace like that because we don't have the land. So this is our opportunity to be able to do that. And I'm looking forward to those discussions before the City Council. And if you have any questions on any of those three, you can contact my office at any time, and I will personally talk to you about those proposals if needed. Just a reminder from the City Clerk's office that the deadline to register dogs in the City of Gardner and across Massachusetts was March 31st. If you did not register your dog by March 31st, you can no longer utilize the online registration and online pay form because there is a penalty and interest associated with that. If you did not do that, please do come in and still register your dog. These are actual criminal citations that if they don't get paid within a certain number of days, we are legally required as a city to send them to the local district court. So again, please make sure you do get all of those in on a timely basis. You have to visit the City Clerk's office. They're located at room 121 here in City Hall next to the Mayor's office. Again, Friday, City Hall closes at 1 p.m. and then we're open from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. on Monday through Thursday. There are 2 upcoming Massachusetts Department of Transportation virtual meetings on Zoom coming up for different projects in the area. The first is for Fitchburg's Phase 2 of their bike path. For those of you who have driven Route 2 East recently and seen the new bridge down by the Barnes & Noble area of Route 2, they're extending the work that's being done on that end. But the more exciting one on my end is the North Central Bike Paths bike bridge. So that same exact structure, but going over Route 140, connecting the bike path back from where it extends by the college in Crystal Lake up over to Stone Street, and then so that we can connect into the Winchendon area section of the bike trail. So if you would like to participate in those, more info on that can be found on the city's website and social media platforms under the news flash section of the website, including the login information so you can figure out how to attend those meetings. This is going to be really exciting for Gardner to finally have that pedestrian crossing / bicycle crossing bridge over Route 140 and really connect that area there. I'm really excited to see how that project plays out. Right now, construction is scheduled for 2025. What this meeting is to get public input on the design of the bridge and how that would look. There is a public survey currently being conducted by our City Economic Development Coordinator, Jessica DeRoy, regarding the city's Wayfinding program that we have funded by the Massachusetts Mass Development Program as a branch of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. This is a program to figure out how we can better our signage throughout the downtown. Those of you who have been to larger cities know that on some of the sidewalk corners, there's sometimes signs indicating parking this way, this business that way, this historical marker that way. We're trying to see what would you like to see here in Gardner and how can we improve our signs in our downtown and across our city. So not just in the downtown, but throughout the city itself. More information on that can be found by contacting our City Economic Development Coordinator, Jessica DeRoy. And again, that is available between March 27th and April 10th, 2023. So if you'd like to share your opinion, that's your time to do so. April's Yard Waste Pickup Day will be held the week of April 4th. So again, April 4th through April 7th, depending on when your regular trash day is, put your yard waste out and crews from Harvey will be able to take all of your yard waste that's there. So if you're, again, interested in that, that's the week of April 4th through April 7th on your regular trash day. I want to say congratulations to Candor Realty, Millennium Holding Group, Simplified Management, whatever company name they're using at the time, on a closing of 2 of their newest buildings in the downtown area. 82 Main Street, a former law office in the downtown, is now under their ownership, as well as the Garbos building located at 210 Parker Street. That's the big building downtown in the square with all of the windows. If you drive by now, they've actually rented a couple of the parking spaces in front of the building where they put a dumpster out, and they've already begun to empty that building out and get rid of a lot of the junk that was there. The main storefront that has all of those big windows, if you drive by, you'll notice it's clean. There's no longer any trash in the windows there. Going so far as to finding someone who bought every pair of shoes that was stored in there. I believe there was about 300 pairs of shoes back from the 1980s still in that storefront that they were able to get purchased by someone. So thank you very much to John Bombaci, Matt Permian, Todd Wheatley, and everyone else from the Candor Realty, Millennium Holding Group, Simplified Management team for everything that you've done for the city in terms of your investments, and I'm really looking forward to the exciting work that's being done in the downtown. Also want to give a special shout out to Empire Management, who purchased their building right next door to the Garbos building and will be beginning a substantial amount of work on that building beginning within about a month or 2 there, including painting the outside, new sconce lights, new signing. It's really going to be a great improvement in the downtown. We've never seen this much focus in the downtown all at once this quickly. So I'm really excited to see how that helps boost our economy and help attract more local businesses and more people to start these businesses in the city and new residents. Just a reminder that this coming Saturday, April 8th, the Lions Club will be holding their annual Easter egg hunt here at Gardner City Hall. And again, that'll take place from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon. Next Saturday, April 8th, here at Gardner City Hall, you do have to bring your own Easter basket. That is the only thing that the Lions Club has set as a stipulation. I want to say thank you to the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 907 for putting on the annual Vietnam Veterans Day here in front of Gardner City Hall, and then again to the Gardner Senior Center for putting on their Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day program over at the Senior Center later on that day. Gardner's always done a lot to honor and remember the sacrifices of our veterans and thank our veterans for the work that they've done in protecting our freedoms both here and across the globe. So thank you to everyone who did serve our country and for everyone who made those very important ceremonies possible this past week. The Health Department's Health Resource Fair, again, is on April 12th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that'll be in Perry Auditorium here at Gardner City Hall. So if you're interested in attending that, there's still some time to get ready for that. And then the Flashback Dance by the Gardner Centennial Committee will be held on April 22nd from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. in Perry Auditorium as well. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased at the door. Earlier that morning, the the Disabled Veterans of America Department of Massachusetts will be conducting their annual Honor Guard training in Perry Auditorium. So if you see some work earlier in the day before 6:30, don't worry. The dance doesn't start till 6:30 when the music kicks off, and it's sure to be a fun time for all. Haywood Hospital will be having their topping off ceremony this coming Wednesday, April 6th at 9:30 a.m. This is where they will be raising the final beam, steel beam, over the new surgical pavilion at that site that's there. So congratulations to Haywood Hospital for continuing with that very important capital project that they're doing in terms of creating the new surgical pavilion, adding about, I believe it's close to 40 new operating rooms and several dozen recovery rooms there, and growing what the Haywood Hospital facility surgical staff can do by about 60%. So congratulations to Haywood Hospital for reaching that milestone. One of the things that our Economic Development Coordinator, Jessica DeRoy, has been doing lately is doing new tours of different businesses throughout Gardner. So this coming week, there'll be a tour of Borges Martial Arts located at 122 West Street on Wednesday. Information on that can be found by contacting our City Economic Development Coordinator, Jessica DeRoy. Last week, they toured Rob's Dino Service over on Fredette Street and Wilkins Road. And this is the next stop on those business tours. And we're going to try to periodically have those throughout the course of the year to show off some of the business partners that we have here in Gardner. And lastly, just as an update, the property located at 73 Stewart Street, the old rundown factory at the corner of Nadeau and Stewart, the RFP process on that has closed and the review process has been completed. The winner of the RFP process was John Bombachi of Candor Realty. He was the only person who submitted a proposal for that matter for the price of $17,000. The proposal includes the full demolition of the building structure and the creation of 7 new condominium units. That closing is probably going to be a little delayed there just because we are there's a contingency in there for some zoning relief before the Zoning Board of Appeals. However, because all of those documents are now public record, as with an RFP, documents become public record the moment an award and a purchase and sale agreement is entered into. Since those are all now public record, we felt it was okay to share that on these updates, and that has been cleared with Candor Realty's team as well. So great to see another area of the city that's been run down and blighted turned back into a promising future. However, that concludes this week's Mayor's Update. As always, if you have any questions on anything at all that was mentioned in this video that we have here, you can feel free to contact my office at any time, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Thank you very much, and have a great day.